According to Redfin, the 2026 housing market is going to be called the Great Housing Reset. I got to tell you, folks, when I read that title, I was expecting Redfin to come out swinging and talk about a very large housing crash. I mean, come on. The title says Great Housing Reset. Where in reality, what does Redfin believe? Not a crash, but also not a boom. In fact, what Redfin says is it will be the beginning of a long, slow recovery where the math finally starts to change. Well, folks, I don't know about you, but that frankly is the same call I have had for 2.5 years. So, what I would tell Redfin is you're a little late. The Great Housing Reset, or the slow climb in affordability, has actually been going on for 2 years, and you weren't paying attention. In fact, folks, if you haven't looked at the 50-year spreadsheet in a while, I will remind you that from 1978 to 1996, we did not exceed transaction volume from 78 until 1996. 18 years. I do not think it will take 18 years this time, but it probably will take 8. And oh, by the way, unlike Redfin, who has just come around to the party, I believe 2025 will go down as year 3. Thus, 2026 will be year 4. So again, it does seem like more and more economists are seeing what you and I have been talking about for years. I'm not sure what took them so long, but hey, at least they are here now. How about Realtor.com? Lots of people are forecasting 2026. And what I'm going to do for you here is I will give you their forecast, and then I will tell you whether I agree or disagree. And frankly, let me think. I think one of their predictions is a decent number. I think the other two are off by quite a bit. So the forecast for 2026, let's start with rates. According to Redfin, they believe that 2026 interest rates, 30-year interest rates will be 6.3%. They believe that transactions for existing home sales, this is not new home sales, this is existing home sales only, will be 4.13. And then finally, price. They believe that the median home price will go up 2.2% as opposed to down or crashing 50%. So what do I think? I believe price, their call for 2.2% inflation, is probably their best guess. This one was hard for me because I'm going to take the over-under on all of these. I'm going to take the under on price. I believe I've said a couple of times that I think the median home price will be about 1% in nominal terms. These are not real. These are not inflation adjusted or anything like that. It is 1% nominal. But I do think 2.2% is not a bad number. Now for transactions. Transactions, they are saying 4.13, or about 3% more than 2025. I believe in 2025 we will come in right around 4 million. I believe this number is actually low. I believe it's low for several reasons. First, think about the tailwinds we have. We just posted the largest number of mortgage applications in freaking November. So a lot of those transactions will close in Q1. Second, I do believe we will have more distressed sales. And whether you know it or not, a foreclosure sale counts as an existing home sales. I believe there is going to be, 20%, 50%, maybe even 100% increase. Yeah, let's call it 100% increase in distressed sales next year. Now, again, for anybody saying that this is going to be bigger than 2008 or faster than 2008, you don't know what you're talking about. You're wrong. But it will be 100% worse than 05 or 25. That is for sure. We've got a lot of noise to clean up. And I do believe distressed sales will double. Now, again, some of you might be hearing that going, see, I told you there's a problem. Well, folks, never forget, going from 2 to 4 is a double. And again, we are at historic lows for distressed sales. So yes, we will have a double. Yes, the Jerry Springers of housing will try to scare you with that. But in reality, zoom out, look at the math. We have years of bad loans to clean up, and 2026 we'll see 100% increase in distressed sales. So I believe their transaction count is low. I think it will be much closer to, 4.3 million. So a significant upside from 4.1. And then finally, price. Price, they got 2.2. Oh, I already did price. My bad. Interest rate, 6.3. I believe this is high. I believe we're going to roll into the year at 6.2-ish, which is already below where they are. And we will spend most of our year going lower. So I don't think we ever see 6.3. Certainly, I do not think we average 6.3. So again, that's what I think. So I got the under on price, the over on transactions, and the under on average interest rates. How about Stanley Druckenmiller? Stanley Druckenmiller coming out and just shooting diversification in the face. Looks like George Gammon put out a crash video. Another, I don't know about you guys, but let me just ask this question right here, right now. I've come up with this nomenclature of Jerry Springer for housing crash doomers. Is George Gammon a doomer? Is George Gammon just Jerry Springer? Remember, folks, Jerry Springer is the only person that got rich by watching his stuff. The audience wasn't better. The people on stage weren't better, but Jerry Springer got rich. That's what content creators are doing to you. They are stealing your possible future. Watching Jerry Springer does not make you better. So, is George Gammon Jerry Springer? Let me know in the comments below. I don't watch his stuff. I got him on the block list, but curious what you all think. Leave comments below. Now back to Stanley Druckenmiller. Diversification is where conviction goes to die. All eggs in one basket. Full accountability. Ruthless monitoring. That is how asymmetry is built. This reminds me of the Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger conversation, right? Warren Buffett comes out and says, go buy a index fund. And Charlie Munger says, no, diversification is for the weak, the lazy, and the stupid. Put all your eggs in one basket and watch the freaking basket. So Charlie Munger, rest in peace. Stanley Druckenmiller agrees with you. I'm sure giving you a head nod and respect for that. Weekly jobless claims. Woo! Weekly jobless claims took a massive dive to 191K. That is down 27,000 in week on week. But here's the deal, folks. Never forget that data around holidays is noisy. In fact, it wouldn't shock me if this is quickly reversed next week, because when I read the news, it sounded like the big drops were Texas and California. So let's see what next week brings. Anytime there's a holiday in the middle of the week, lots of data gets messed up. But yeah, 191K. And again, this is the last weekly report before the Fed meeting. So think about that. Back to the average mortgage rate and why I think Realtor.com is high. Yesterday was 6.23, which is near the low of the year. Last year was 6.85. The 10-year note was 4.06. And the spread is still collapsing. The spread is down almost 100 basis points. The spread now is 217. Always remember that the long run historical average is 180. So we still have about 37 basis points that can be removed to get back to normal. If we had that 37 basis points today, interest rates would be sub 6. Shout out the uneducated economist for talking about lumber. I noticed that lumber yesterday fell to the lowest point in 14 months. Ouch. What does that mean? Well, I'm getting better bids on jobs. I just got a roof that was $3 or $4 grand less than I would have paid a year ago. I really think there is some competition for labor and jobs. So we're seeing lumber at the lowest. How about home purchases? Cancellations are up 15%. Remember, folks, this is all stuff we talked about. Delistings, record. Cancellations, record. What does that all mean? Well, first off, cancellations, never forget that the money is in the follow-up. Some of you have a buy box, which is great. Some of you have a buy box and you're following and tracking, and sometimes you lose an opportunity. What I would tell you is that opportunity is not lost until the deal closes. Several of my best deals ever were simply by following up, and that deal blew up in escrow. And I was able to get it. I was able to save the deal, and it never went back on the market. So again, this is something you need to do. Keep following up. I think something we need to really start asking ourselves, and I started asking myself this yesterday, was, will Kevin Hassett be supported by the bond vigilantes? I think it is pretty clear that President Trump will nominate Kevin Hassett. I think it is very clear that Kevin Hassett is an ultra dove, possibly to the point of restarting QT. He wants rates lower. The problem is the bond market may not go along with that. And it is possible that the bond market will see Kevin Hassett as a bad pick. To that point, just this morning, the Financial Times did a hit piece on Kevin Hassett, basically quoting unnamed bond vigilantes who think Kevin Hassett is the wrong choice for Fed chair. Very interesting. Michael Burry in the news again. He's stopped taking outside capital because I think the stock market could be in for a number of bad years. Let's talk about our Vegas event. Again, some of you are sleeping on our Las Vegas event, our family reunion. I just want to give you a feel for the topics that will be covered. We've talked about who's speaking a lot, but here are the topics. Starting off day one, presentation one, we're going to talk about a young man who became a millionaire at 21, and I believe a multimillionaire at 23. We're going to start off hot with Gen Z. And also remember, folks, I gave out 20 seats for free for your teenagers. I want to see your teenagers be millionaires in their early 20s. We've given away, I think, 16 seats. We got 4 left. And hopefully you get your ticket and tell me that your kid is coming, because I would love to see them there. Next up, we're going to go right into the hottest trend in real estate today, rent by room or co-living. We've got to be able to understand how to do it right. What are the traps? We're going to have one of the OGs of ORaaT talk about what he is doing. Next up, we're going to talk about someone who did the near impossible. They left everything behind, moved to America, and started fresh. This, of course, is a doctor from a South American country who said, I can't do what I want here. It is communist and or socialist, and they come here and start over. We will, of course, next up bring in the #1 presentation from last year, and we'll bring Fred back to talk about mental health, keeping your head game strong. Next, we're going to talk about someone building a portfolio in Europe and the challenges being a single female building a real estate portfolio in Europe by herself. Next, we'll have somebody come on and talk about their passion project and how they raised multiple millions of dollars. And then finally, of course, we will have keynote #1, the one and only Jason Hartman. That, folks, is worth the price of admission by itself. Not only on day one will we do that, but I will feed you lunch, allow for 2 hours of networking, and I will feed you dinner. Saturday is a long day because it is also day for celebration of last year's activities. And then starting off day 2, we have a Gen Z person, Dylan, coming up talking about mindset in action and networking and how he did it at such a young age. Next up, we will have another OG of the One Rental at a Time community talking about infill development. You see these plots of land everywhere in every city where there should be a house but isn't for lots of different reasons. What if you could take that lot, build something, and make bank? We will have someone who does that routinely, multiple times a year, talk about that. Next up, we will have someone talk about how they took 2 years off in their 30s to travel the world. I think this is such a great story. Sean and Sharon talking about how they took 2 years off because of real estate and traveled the world. Next up, we will bring on a couple who were one of the first persons who ever reached out to me in 2018 with my book, some ORaaT, true ORaaT OGs, talking about how they've been with the ride forever and what they are doing. Just like last year where we had mental health and physical health, we will bring back Dr. Jeff to talk about physical health. We'll probably show some embarrassing pictures, what my health looked like day one and what it looked like day two, both reports, and maybe if I'm feeling really comfortable showing some pictures. Not sure if I'll do that because, boy, was I fat. But I did take them just to see how my body changed. Then we will bring on Rob Abasola, talk about Airbnb and short-term rentals. And finally, the one and only Pace Morby will round out day two in keynote number 2. So, folks, we down to 100 tickets. I think we've got 4 tickets left for teenagers. Again, Vegas is on sale, so go get your flights, go get your hotels. If you are in our school community, lots of people are already planning activities. So, reach out, network, get to know people. Understand the family reunion is going to be pretty amazing. Also, folks, don't forget that I do events different. These are not pitch fests. These are not death by PowerPoint. Every speaker will leave 15 to 20 minutes so you can ask them questions. So again, I would be prepared. I would get questions ahead of time and be ready to rock and roll. So folks, at the end of the day, don't forget that Steadily is Landlord Insurance. They are the sponsors of the Daily Financial News. If you're a landlord, it is your job to get a quote and get the best coverage at the best rates. Again, I have a call with them. It didn't happen yesterday. My day got busy, but I'll talk to them today and see if they can help me again on a house renewal. Take care of yourself. Don't forget to join School 500 Strong. We will be back Sunday for the Daily Financial News at 7:30. And don't forget about tomorrow with the weekly wrap up with Ty at 7:30. You guys are amazing. Take care. Later.